Very happy that Mary Risley could visit with us today from San Francisco. She loves to teach people how to cook. In fact, she's been doing it for 30 years. You can find her working side by side with her students at the Tante cooking school that she founded 20 years ago in San Francisco. Well, I think it's so great. You were voted the best culinary teacher of the year by Bon Appetit magazine.
Right.
And also the James Beard Foundation honored you with Humanitarian of the Year, which is a great honor.
I run a volunteer organization called Food Runners. 200 people each week that go to a restaurant, a bakery, or a grocery store and pick up food and take it to the shelters. There's enough food produced in the country to feed everybody.
I believe that.
It's a matter of distribution.
I was thinking today, there are recipes out there that are not in any book. And this is one of those recipes that you cannot find in a book. Now, where is the inspiration from?
Do you remember Schraff's in New York?
Oh, of course, my hot fudge sundae treat when I got to go to New York with my dad.
In San Francisco, there was a place like Schraff's called Blum's. And that's exactly how San Franciscans look at it.
So this cake emanates from that place?
Well, nobody knows exactly where the real recipe is, but this is as close as we can get. This is a chiffon cake. A chiffon cake is like an angel food with egg yolks and oil in it. So first we're going to make the cake, then we're going to frost it with coffee whipped cream, and then we're going to make this candy honeycomb to go on the outside.
Fantastic. Oh,
so
good.
What I've done here is I put 2 1/4 cups of flour in a sifter like this. Cake flour.
Cake flour, okay.
And 3/4 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. Would you put some oil and water?
Oh, definitely. And how much water? That is 3/4 cup?
3/4 cup of water. And then you want to measure out 1/4 cup of oil. Excuse me, half cup.
A half cup of pure vegetable oil.
Right. We're going to put in 6 egg yolks. This is the old-fashioned
chiffon cake, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I remember making cakes with the oil. So 6 egg yolks,
teaspoon of lemon zest, and a tablespoon of vanilla extract.
A whole tablespoon.
Now, the other thing that makes this cake unusual is you put it in an angel food pan without greasing the pan. No butter.
It climbs up the sides of the pan like an angel food cake or a sponge cake.
Exactly. So now, could you make a little meringue for us?
Okay, so that's your
6 egg whites.
Any sugar?
And then we're going to add 3/4 cup of sugar.
Okay. So there, I'm going to just add it slowly, get it nice and glossy.
What happens is egg whites are really little bubbles of air, and if you add the sugar too quickly, it liquefies. So you want it to stay bubbles and suspend the crystals a little bit. A meringue is egg whites and sugar. So you're making a meringue, and that by adding sugar to the egg whites, it makes it a little more stable when you fold the 2 mixtures together.
Yes, and silky.
Okay, so half the mixture goes in first. Okay, and to fold, I cut down the middle, lift what's on the bottom, up and over the top, and turn the bowl. So I'm always doing 3 strokes. 1 down, up, and around. Down, up, and around.
Here's the cooking teacher.
Down, up,
Listen
and
to her.
Really, don't forget to turn the bowl.
Now, how did you come up with the name Tante Marie? I know your name is Mary, but Tante Marie was the name of an old cookbook.
Tante Marie is an old French cookbook, that's right.
We happen to have a copy right here, which is very charming.
And I thought it was kind of a joke calling myself Mary after an old French cookbook. And I used to be, if you look on there, there's a young, tall, beautiful woman and a little older, heavier woman.
Right.
I used to be the young, beautiful woman.
I looked in here for your cake. It's not in here.
No, this is a secret recipe. As you know, whenever you're working with, can you turn the thing? Whenever you're working with flour, you don't want to beat too much after you add the flour. That's what makes cakes heavy. So we've got a nice light mixture because we used cake flour, a lighter flour, and we lightened it with egg whites. And then we've got a beautiful cake mixture.
Beautiful. And right into a 325-degree oven?
325 for an hour.
So it is set for 325, 1 hour.
You're a really good kitchen assistant.
I am. I love taking care of the kitchen for you. I will come to your school anytime.
Thank you.
So the cake is already done by magic.
We have a cake already done, and then if we need to get the cream out of the refrigerator.
Okay.
So when you have an angel food cake pan, the recipe calls for turning it over onto a bottle to get the cake to kind of suspend for the hour.
We've just found that these new cake pans, though, the hole is too small.
The hole's too small,
right. So we just turn it over.
Right. So we're going to turn the cake over onto a glass pedestal and frost it with coffee-flavored whipped cream. Could you put 3 tablespoons of sugar into that?
Yes, indeed.
Stir 3 tablespoons of sugar into it.
So this is how much cream?
A cup and a half of lightly whipped cream. And then we need 1/4 cup of this
espresso coffee.
Yes. The best way when a recipe calls for coffee extract, the best is to use instant espresso dissolved in hot water.
Now, if you have an espresso machine, can you use that?
Sure.
Just a little shot of espresso?
I think so, but I still put a teaspoon of instant espresso into it.
Oh, you would? Okay.
So here we have an unmolded cake, and to keep the cake from getting the plate messy, I'm going to put some little pieces of paper under the edges.
So do you want me to frost?
Yeah, I'd love it if you'd frost. I bet you're really good at it.
Oh, I like to. I've done a few cakes. And when we come back, Mary is going to finish this cake with a coffee crunch candy topping that makes it the Blum's cake of yesteryear, right?
Really?
Great, thank you. Well, Mary Risley and I have just baked, well, she's baked, the most delicious chiffon cake, which I'm now going to frost with the coffee whipped cream.
Please.
And you tell us what you're doing there, because
I'm going to make a caramel that's actually even darker than caramel. And what I did was I put 1.5 cups of sugar into a very large, heavy bottom pan. And I added 1/4 cup of strong coffee. That could be just coffee with an extra teaspoon of instant espresso in it. And 1/4 cup of corn syrup. Now what I've got here is whenever you're caramelizing sugar, it's very important to dissolve the sugar first before you let it boil. The mistake that most people make when they're caramelizing is the sugar isn't dissolved, and then it starts to boil, and it crystallizes again. So we want to get the sugar dissolved, and then we're going to turn the heat up to high and boil it until it's 310 on a thermometer.
So what is that? 310 is where? Is that hard crack or soft crack? I forget.
It's almost to the hard crack stage.
Okay.
What happens is if it smokes a lot and you get really scared and it starts to burn, then go, oh, I think that's 310, and take it off the heat.
Okay.
So this is pretty tricky stuff. It's best not to have children do it. It's very, very hot.
Oh, no, and actually, Mary, I always put a bowl of iced water nearby.
That's a good idea.
Because if I get any of that on me, I put my extremity right in the iced water, and it's much better than anything else.
Good.
Yes.
So when this reaches 310, we're going to sieve on a tablespoon of baking soda, and that'll make it foam up and get all
like peanut
strange.
Brittle.
It's going to get
like
strange.
The brittle does that, right?
I've never made peanut brittle.
Oh, yeah, it does exactly that.
Well, I think this is stranger than peanut brittle. So I've got my tablespoon. I always take a knife and just measure it off exactly whenever you're using baking powder or baking soda. It needs to be an exact measurement.
Well, look, it looks like about the right temperature. You want to test it?
It looks scary. It looks like scary foam. So what we're doing is we've got this over a high heat, and we're waiting for it to get to 310 degrees. And when it gets to exactly the temperature we want, or it begins to smoke a little bit, we're going to sieve on. Now, whenever you sift something, I always put it in a sifter onto a piece of wax paper so that I don't lose any. So I'm just putting it into the sifter. You see how I got that little blob on the bottom? Okay, so, well, we could actually sift the whole thing on. Okay, so sometimes this gets kind of chunky because it's humid in the East Coast.
So it has to be 310.
Let's do it now. Here, why don't you stir and I'll sift, but now watch out, this is really hot. Okay, there you go. Now don't stir too much, just enough till it starts to all foam up and get strange. Ooh,
looks
that
like
looks
lava.
good. Now it goes onto a lightly oiled baking sheet.
Yeah, this looks like peanut brittle to me. Oops.
Looks like peanut brittle?
Yeah.
Now, don't mess it up too much. We just want to let it kind of lie there.
Oh, it just does it itself. Okay.
Yeah. Okay? There's a great temptation to stick your finger on it and taste it.
No, 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 not this one. No 300-degree molten lava, coffee
Okay.
lava.
This has to cool now. So over here we have a pan that's already chilled. And what I do now is to smash it up until it's little pieces like that.
Okay.
You want to smash?
No, I don't mind. And then you show
Okay.
us what you do with it.
And then we take chunks of this. Now the recipe calls for cutting the cakes in thirds and putting whipped cream between all 3 layers, but I never do that. I'm too lazy.
Oh, that would
I
be
just
pretty,
make it
though.
a big old crunchy Blum's coffee crunch cake.
Boy, isn't that beautiful? I think this will be a birthday cake for lots of people now that we have the secret recipe. And what about just eating this crunch by itself without a cake?
I did that all last night.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. This looks more like an earthquake cake, I think.
Oh, it's quite spectacular. Would you have done it just more with the dust?
No, I like the big chunks.
Okay.
I think it looks great. You can make the crunch ahead. You can make the cake ahead. But when you frost something with whipped cream, it'll only keep for 3 or 4 hours.
Exactly, and yeah, so you should do that at the last minute. Well, let's see what we can get here in the way of a slice. At least this big,
Ooh
right?
la la, look at
What
that.
a beautiful cake. What a great texture. Well, here, that's for you, Mary.
Oh, that's pretty
Here.
good.
Now, do you make this for all your friends all the time?
No, I make them make it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's really nice is that the cake is light as a feather, the whipped cream is light as a feather, and the brittle itself is light as a feather. I can see why people stood in line for this cake at Blum's. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
welcome. This is a
welcome.
lot of fun, and I'm sure many, many, many of our viewers are going to make this cake.
Thank you for having me.